So, good morning, everybody. So, I'm Siham Ramli. I'm from ACAPS Morocco, the Moroccan Authority, and I had the pleasure to moderate this morning conversation on the contribution of insurance to the societal resilience with two great panelists. So, Christine Capet, CEO of the Australian Life Insurance Association. So, thank you for joining us this morning, Christine. And Bill Marcoux, Chair of the Insurance Development Forum. Very happy to have you with us as well. So before we start our conversation, I'd like to quickly share on the work that the IAIS is doing on the topic that we will discuss with Christine and Bill. So insurance plays a vital role in fostering economic growth and societal resilience by protecting against financial shocks that can disrupt lives and livelihoods. Inclusive insurance extends this protection to vulnerable groups such as low-income population, vulnerable groups, informal workers, smallholder farmers, and other people. So the IAIS 2025-2029 strategic plan highlights the societal purpose of insurance in building resilience and underscores the role of supervisors in advancing financial inclusion, addressing protection gaps, and ensuring fair treatment of customers. Supervisors play a key role in fostering fair, safe, and stable insurance markets by addressing challenges through data analysis, improving financial literacy, and other actions. So while the role of insurance supervisor is pivotal, addressing protection gaps and enhancing societal resilience require coordinated efforts from all the stakeholders. So for this conversation, Christine and Bill will share with us their perspectives on how the insurance sector and players can promote financial health and societal resilience. Our conversation will set the stage for the roundtable that will take place this morning. So maybe I will start with you, Bill, for the first question. So the IDF mission statement is to close natural catastrophe, insurance protection gap, and extend the use of insurance capabilities in both advanced and developing economies so people, economy, and nation can thrive. So how do you consider the insurance does this? I mean, how does it play the role to help people, economies, and nation to thrive?
Thank you, Sian. Before I answer the question, let me just note that I think the Prime Minister's speech could not have set this conversation up better. He really hit the issues that we wanted to talk about today. We could probably close the panel. Everybody's gotten the message. We have a big challenge. The industry, the supervisors, governments can meet that challenge together and make progress, which we hope they do. But it really was, I thought, an exceptional opening comment for today. So yeah, great to hear that. Listen, the IDF, the Insurance Development Forum, was founded 10 years ago. It is a truly public-private partnership. It's insurance industry led, but the World Bank and the UN are two of the co-leaders of the steering committee of the IDF. The IDF was formed to be an operational platform, and it's proven to be that. It's not a talking shop. It's not just to advocate, although it does that. It is to deliver insurance solutions to societies, to countries, to people, and that's how it really judges its success. I want to clarify, the Insurance Development Forum is focused just on natural catastrophe protection gaps. There are very important health, life, and Christine, you'll be talking about those as well. But the IDF is focused on nat cat protection gaps and further focused just on emerging developing economies. Protection gaps, nat cat protection gaps, we all know exist in the mature markets as well, but that's our focus. And what it does is really, when we talk about deploying the insurance capabilities, it's, there's three things the insurance industry does facing risk. It understands it, It finances risk, obviously the very function of insuring against a risk, but it's also understanding the risk and helping people to see ways forward to avoid loss, to mitigate damage in the first place. And of course, then the third component of the insurance sector performance here is on the asset side of the balance sheet. And there was some conversation about this yesterday. What the IDF has done is working with public sector partners. They've engaged in more than 20 countries and developing insurance solutions and then trying to execute them. And so that's the biggest part of it. But on the asset side as well, the Insurance Development Forum just launched, actually formally launched about a month ago, an Insurance Resilience Infrastructure Fund, which was developed by the IADF insurance company members. BlackRock then has helped launch this fund. It's raised substantial funds. The IFC has supported it. It's authorized its first investment. So it's rolling, but it's really trying, and this is what the IDF's tried to do, is produce something, do something. And I'm pleased that we've been able to do that. But anyways, that's a bit. You can, for those of you who do not know about the Insurance Development Forum, you can go to its website and you'll learn much more. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Bill. So you have emphasized the potential of insurance in addressing protection gap, but I would like to have a specific question to you on how can the industry improve the designing of the products. I mean, there is a lot of products, and how can we really reach the need of the population in developed countries, but also in emerging markets?
You raise a really important point. I think all the stakeholders around the protection gap issue need to do more and do it better. The industry, the insurance industry, which I've advised and been pleased to be a part of for more than 40 years, the insurance industry can and needs, and I know will do more. It has done a lot. Insurance supervisors, all stakeholders, need to do more. What we like to say is more need to do more across the board. But specifically your question about what the insurance industry needs to do or could do and is doing, I think, it needs to engage with its customers and the other people that are around it. It's a complicated industry. It's not easily understood. There's a mystery of how do you price products? How do you decide what you're going to insure, what you're not going to insure? Insurance is based on the theory of large numbers. The many pay the losses of the few. By definition, that means more people say, I never got a benefit from insurance. I've been paying premiums forever. What benefit did I get? And then, by design, fewer people actually ever claim. But it's talking about the value proposition of insurance, explaining how the industry, how the insurance companies actually work, how they underwrite. Those things are really important. And then lastly, I'll say it is true. I think we talked yesterday, there was a mention about this is a global problem and it requires a global solution. Yes, but it requires local products, ones that are designed specifically for the risk, for the country, and that's going to vary. And I think the industry, at times has a suite of products that they've developed. They love it, and they want to sell the products that they have. But sometimes you have to begin with, what do people really need? What can they afford? Maybe many times you can't insure everything. So coming up with products that are focused on the most critical risks are important. So innovation and imagination are probably required.
But you think there is any differences to addressing, between AMD and developed country?
There is. There's a lot of similarities, but it's, again, as I mentioned, the IDF is really focused on emerging developing economies. Clearly, again, the Prime Minister talked about that. Probably every population, whether it's California or whether any other place, there's a limit to what one's personal financial situation or your corporate financial situation or your government budget can bear as a risk, as a self-insured risk, which happens. It's more acute in the emerging developing economies. The ability to take protective action up front, there's just not the money. Do you build a hospital? Do you build a school? Do you build a flood plain? There have to be trade-offs. What the emerging economies demand, and it's there, is support from the development finance institutions, the development agencies, the donor countries. And I think I'll leave this. One of the big problems as disasters have struck, the basic way we've done it globally is hurricane hits, flood hits, and agencies come in after the fact. And a ton of money is spent cleaning up, trying to get people back on their feet. If we emphasized pre-arranged financing, not just collect money after the fact, we know the statistics show that the impact of $1 spent before a disaster is worth more than 4, 5, 6 times that dollar spent after the disaster. So donor countries and others need to come, particularly for emerging and developing economies.
Thank you very much, Bill. And now I'll turn to you, Christine. And life insurance works alongside governments and other financial institutions, supports to protect people who lose a loved one or are too sick to disabled to work. So how has the Australia's life insurance industry identified its role in this safety and net, and how are you working with other systems to support the community?
Well, thanks, Siham, and thank you to the IAIS for inviting the perspectives of Australian insurers. I'd like to start with purpose. And the purpose of life insurance is to provide people and families with peace of mind so that they can live in the most healthy, confident and secure way. We're here to provide people with protection and certainty so that they can make big life decisions like having a baby or buying a house or starting a business. And we do that alongside a broader financial safety net, which is there to catch people when they are too sick, injured or disabled to work. So this year, the Council of Australian Life Insurers commissioned a study into how our safety net is working, how it operates, what the financial support that it provides, and the experience of real people who need to use and navigate that system. Now, like many countries, Australia is facing a mental health challenge. 1 in 2 Australians is expected to have a mental health condition in their lifetime, and our Productivity Commission estimates that mental ill health is a $220 billion drag on our economy. Now, most people with a mental health condition can still work. They participate in the workforce, but increasingly many people are unable to do so. So, for example, the rate of claim for people in their 30s for permanent disability for mental ill health has increased 732% in 10 years. And these are people in the prime of their working lives. They're people that want to contribute to the economy and should be making those contributions. And we don't want this to be the story of young Australians. The challenge is also putting pressure on our financial safety nets. 38% of employer liability scheme costs relate to mental ill health claims. 37% of our government-funded disability support pension goes to people who have a mental health condition as their primary disability. And last year, life insurers paid more than double the mental health claims that they paid 5 years ago. So what that tells us is that the system needs to work together. Changes or efforts in one part of the safety net, particularly changes that restrict access, are going to have flow on to the rest of the safety net, and also mean that it is harder for our customers to use and navigate different parts of the system. So we've begun working with other parts of the safety net to map and share data. And life insurers are now publishing an annual report exploring mental ill health and what's going on for people who are too sick due to their mental health condition to participate in the workforce. We're also partnering with mental health advocates to research how we develop a more mentally resilient community, and talking to our supervisor about the opportunity for earlier interventions to stop people becoming so unwell that they can't work. We're also calling on the government to prioritise early access to treatment, to keep people engaged in the workplace and stop them becoming so sick that they need to leave the workforce. So life insurers will always be here to support the customers that are deeply affected by mental ill health, but it's very clear that we need to work with the rest of the safety net to build a more mentally fit society.
Thank you very much, Christine. And maybe Bill, addressing the design profitability trade-off often requires a multi-party collaboration. So how do the tripartite agreements of the IDF bring together actors from the public and the private to respond to these challenges?
Yeah, the tripartite agreement, which is something that was launched, I guess, in 2019, by the IDF, but it's through its partners. It's the members of the tripartite agreement as UNDP, the IDF, and then the British government or the German government through BMZ, which provides financing. It was set up, as I mentioned, the IDF wants to be an operational platform. It wants to get things done. And the idea was, and how it's been executed, is forming these parties, obviously through BMZ having money to help fund these. It brought insurance expertise, the UN's boots on the ground connectivity of various countries, but it created a platform that could then engage with a country, talk to them about what their needs are, have both the insurer and broker risk expertise to help design products, this being funded by BMZ, and then launching these. And the tripartite agreement is active today in more than 20 countries, hundreds of projects, from agricultural projects to just sovereign risk solutions, cat exposure products, and others. So it has really worked well. Mm-hmm. The biggest issue surrounding this, and it's not just the tripartite, but it's public-private things, partnerships they are hard. It's easy to say, but it's very hard to execute on these, and they take too long. To scale this up, to really deliver it, we need to find ways for these initiatives like the tripartite agreement to be more efficient.
Any success story that you would like to share with us in this regard?
Well, yeah, some of the ones, and again, if you go to the IDF website, you can see lots of the projects that they have done. And one that was just completed in the past year is in Ghana, mm-hmm. focused on Accra, which is susceptible to flooding, huge exposure there, and they developed through the tripartite work 2 flood products for the city of Accra. One's not so innovative. It's a basic parametric cover triggered by the amount of rainfall. But the more interesting one is also flood, but it is through new technology, the ability to actually measure the depth of water. It's not just monitoring how much is flood or how much has come down, but through satellite imagery to be able to measure the depth in places, which makes the product respond in much more specifically, obviously addressing basis risk, which is always an effort. But in addition to the product, this approach also was very holistic. It trained and worked with the government to create a flood response policy. It trained 40 professionals, Ghanaians, to be ready to respond to floods with both medical assistance, but obviously, recovery aspects as well. And so I guess it's the good example of providing cover, but mm-hmm. providing more than the risk financing, providing risk mitigation and disaster response expertise. So that's one.
So great. Thank you for sharing this with us. So maybe could I turn to you, Christine, and ask you how are Australia's life insurers working to improve community resilience and have a more inclusive life insurance market?
Well, life insurers, first and foremost, are here to provide people with essential financial support when the worst happens. That is why people that work at life insurers come to work every day. Now, these benefits can be the difference between staying in the family home or needing to sell up. They can be the difference between early access to treatment or delays and poor health outcomes. So that's our core business. But it's also our responsibility to think broadly and think about how we can support the health, well-being and safety of our communities. If I go back to purpose, we're here to provide people with peace of mind so that they can live their most healthy, confident and secure life. Now, in Australia, there is a collective effort, but led by government, to stamp out family violence and financial abuse. And Australian life insurers recognise the role that we play as part of a broader social policy challenge. My colleagues at the Insurance Council of Australia are also pursuing this important work. Now, when we began this work, we started by listening, and our customers and community advocates told us that our products and processes could be used to exercise control and perpetrate financial abuse. We started to understand that life insurance is an essential part of people's financial safety net, especially when they're experiencing such vulnerability. So by listening to our customers, we identified that privacy, consent and policy ownership laws were affecting the ability of life insurers to act when we suspected financial abuse. Policy ownership structures, premiums and notification requirements also meant that perpetrators could maintain control or cause distress. So we knew that our work had to focus on finding safe, lawful and practical ways to overcome these barriers. Today, life insurers have implemented a number of changes to better train and equip their workforce, particularly people who've experienced family violence themselves. We've also implemented more control for the insured life if they are not the policy owner. And we're working with the government on regulatory reforms to take more risks out of the system and make our products safer, give our customers peace of mind.
Well, thank you very much, but do you have or would you like to share any learnings for the other markets? Any lesson that you learned from your experience?
Yes, I'd be pleased to. And it does go back to purpose. Life insurers globally have the same purpose. We operate the same principles. We're here to serve our community. And we have to make sure that our products and processes are aligned with that purpose. And when we heard that our products and processes were being used to harm people, we needed to act quickly. And so what we really learned from it is listening to community advocates, listening to our customers, and that's something I would highly commend. The social challenges in every country are going to be different, but going back to purpose and listening to customers, I think is something that we all benefit from.
Thank you. So listening is very important. So I do agree with that. So, Bill, the IDF, prime example of the necessary multi-stakeholder partnership to address protection gaps. So within this context, how do you see the role of insurance supervisors?
No more important role in the solving the puzzle. The supervisors, well, and let me just say the IAIS has been on the front foot and has been a leader in this discussion for certainly the last 4 years, publishing some very important papers and engaging with policymakers at the highest levels, the G7, the G20, as we heard yesterday. But the insurance supervisors have have many things to do, but let me just highlight a few of them. Part of it is, I started my comments about how the industry is not well understood. The supervisors know this industry well. They have credibility in their countries. Obviously, from a solvency regulation standpoint, from a markets conduct standpoint, but you understand these products and others. You can be part of the solution of explaining to the general population, and that could be corporate, that could be cities, governments, individuals, the role of insurance. And coming from that source, I think there's a credibility. I mean, there's a lack of understanding, there's a lack of trust in these areas, and the regulators in talking about what they do, proudly talking about what they do to maintain very responsive and secure markets is important. I think the regulators, the supervisors, also an important voice and source of insurance expertise for their governments. Again, what the IDF has done, it engages with various governments. You're talking about parametric coverage, you're talking about cat bonds, you're talking about agricultural products. Just with the supervisors as part of that conversation, I think it cuts through and creates, it's an important conduit and connectivity that they can do. The last part, of course, is they're critical to creating the right enabling environment for the industry to work. And they've done some very good things. There are some real impediments to the insurance industry being able to deliver its value in countries. Those impediments include prohibitions on cross-border reinsurance or heavily restrictions on cross-border reinsurance. The global reinsurance industry has the capacity, the knowledge, how to address these risks. If they cannot deploy cover in your country, they might as well not exist. It's not there. There are restrictions on direct foreign investments in countries, and so there needs to be local solutions, local markets growing, and the IDF has done that with many of their products, but the regulatory environment has to be conducive to bringing the insurance industry skills to the table.
Well, thank you, Bill, for sharing this. And my last question will be for you, Christine, on what consumer education is available to help people understand what life insurance is for. What more can be done to help people understand their protection needs?
Well, we have to give people the confidence and information to understand life insurance products. We have to give them certainty about the protection that they have and their future protection needs. We've looked in Australia at a range of education programs and tools, and there are many of them that are available, and yet many Australians remain uninsured or underinsured. So we did some work at Cali to find out why that might be. And what we found is that we weren't meeting people where they were at. We had very sophisticated programs, content and information, but we weren't connecting with real people and the way they live their lives. So for example, we talked to women in our research. Women in our research indicated that they are less trusting and less positive about life insurance. Women in the workforce have less cover than their male companions. And we've also seen that they feel that life insurance is not relevant to them, especially if they work part-time, don't have dependents, or don't have a mortgage. So at Cali, we started to discussing how could we connect better with women and other cohorts that don't have the highest levels of cover. And what we found is that we need to innovate. We need to think about where people are consuming their information and how we can make our programs relevant to them. We found that we need to invest in social media. We need to partner with women influencers. And we need to make life insurance relevant as women move in and out of the workforce. Now, this opportunity is not just for women. We need to engage with younger people and people from more culturally diverse backgrounds to make sure that we're filling that protection gap, but doing it in a way that connects directly with people and the way that they live their lives.
Great, thank you very much. We are on the time, but let me thank you first and then maybe open for 2 questions from the floor. So please, if you want to have a question if you have a question for Bill or Christine, don't hesitate. There is a mic on the room. Yeah, so we'll take just 1 question and then we will close the session. So, yes, Yushi.
Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm Yoshikawa from OECD and also CGIP, our regional risk pool. And just hearing our Prime Minister and this panel's discussion, and particularly Bill, you mentioned the challenge of our industry is definitely lack of understanding of the value of insurance. Put $1 ahead, saves hundreds of millions of dollars in future. And this is huge. It's a very fundamental issue for insurance. And once we overcome this, challenge, of course, we could create resilient, inclusive society. But I particularly ask, Bill, or you say, of course, the IDF and so on. This recognition, understanding, or lack of understanding, not only individuals, but as Prime Minister mentioned, embedded insurance in government, society is so much beneficial. So how do we promote, this culture or fundamental challenge of insurance, value of insurance, everybody, not only people, but government, society, how do you say, create a culture, value of insurance more understandable to everybody?
You touch upon a fundamental point here, and I think my response to it is there needs to be engagement across the spectrum of stakeholders that own this problem. That includes the insurance industry and certainly includes the insurance supervisors, but it's way more. It's ministers of finance. It's the economic development agencies of various governments. It's the land use people, such things as, where do we build development? What building codes do we do that's going to make our cities, our towns, our homes more resilient day one, not just an ability to rebuild them. So I think, Yoshi, there are so many people that can do things to solve this problem. I will say the IDF published just yesterday a paper on insurability, addressing the root causes of insurability, coming up with solutions. At the end of the paper, if you access it, there's an appendix with more than 50 recommendations of specific things that could happen. And they're categorized by what can legislatures do? What can the industry do? What can regulators do? What can DFIs do in donor countries? And it's the tip of the iceberg. It's not an exhaustive thing, but just the number of them, and they're not all going to work. But I think it shows that just a lot of people can help solve this problem. I think it's exactly, again, why the Prime Minister's speech was so important was we have to work together. We have to work, and again, regionally across, in areas like that. But a lot of people need to do a lot of things.
Thank you very much. And I would like to thank Christine and Bill warmly for this enriching conversation. Discussion on topic will continue during this morning roundtable, and I would strongly encourage you to join them. I wish you all a nice day, and thank you very much.